Hi everyone, welcome back to Atrium Research's YouTube channel. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Curt Marvis, who is the CEO and co-founder of QYOU Media, which trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol QYOU. We initiated coverage on QYOU back in October with a buy rating and a 15-cent target price. Our thesis in QYOU is based on their consistent top-line growth, improving profitability, industry tailwinds in social media, as well as the creator economy. So Curt, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Nicholas. Good to see you.
Thanks. So for those that are unfamiliar with the story, Curt's going to kick it off with a brief company overview with their presentation, and then we'll move on to some Q&A.
Okay, terrific. So thanks for those who are watching. I'll share a quick deck here for 10 minutes or so and give you a brief overview of what our business is all about. Starting, of course, is the standard disclaimer, which I'll run through, and let's dive in. So people always ask me about the name QYOU, where it came from. It actually started when this whole idea for the business started nearly 10 years ago now, when YouTube was the dominant short form video platform in terms of online video platforms that were being watched by young audiences. And we got together and we said, look, there's literally hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of hours of content that are being uploaded onto YouTube at that time. There has to be a business model around curating or packaging the best of that and putting it into different distribution models where both consumers and users could watch a certain type of content and where brands and advertisers could put their advertisements against that. And that's what we set out to do with QYOU originally. This is before Instagram was showing video. This is before there was any TikTok. This was when Snap was just getting off the ground, et cetera. So obviously what's happened in that decade since we started with this idea was that the concept of short form video content has honestly overwhelmed the entire planet, and is something that I'm sure everybody who's listening or watching is aware, is a part of our daily lives. So QYOU Media went through a lot of different twists and turns. I'm not going to spend time going through those now, but after a journey where we made some mistakes and tried to find our way, we realized that there was a country that was part of one of the countries that we were working on at that time, which was essentially Mecca for short form video content and social video, and that country is India. And a huge part of our business, which began really in late 2019, 2020, is now focused on the country of India. And when you see on the right side of the screen our business units, most of those where you see different logos and different images, those all represent different platforms that we have Q branded content primarily in India that's being distributed across broadcast television, across what's now known as connected or smart TVs, across influencer marketing platforms like YouTube, Instagram, et cetera. We also now have a gaming company and a branded gaming platform called Q Games Mela that I'll talk about in a second. So what we've done is we've created in India a very, very large portfolio of different distribution schemes that range, again, from broadcast television all through traditional social video platforms that under the Q brand are doing what the original idea was really built around, which is curating the best of content that's attracting a social media and young social video audience and delivering that content to that audience for advertisers and brands. So as you can see at the bottom of this page, I was mentioning we started now 10 years ago when we first really had the concept. We've now got over 200 people in our business. We have about 180 of them in India and about 20 people here in the United States. We have literally every brand you can possibly imagine, from Coca-Cola and Pepsi through Amazon, Google, automotive, you name it, that we work with in terms of the advertisers that are using our different platforms to deliver their messages to young audiences. And in total, we now reach on every week approximately 125 million people. So we've built a very, very substantial gateway, if you will, for advertisers and brands to leverage the best of what's happening in the world of social video to be able to reach these audiences. So how does that really play out? Well, there's a theme that is becoming known more and more as the creator economy. What is the creator economy? These are all the kids. I say kids. It's a lot of young people and also people of every age that you can imagine that are using platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, et cetera, to be able to deliver social media messages to their communities of followers. That's increasingly getting involved in commerce. It's increasingly getting involved in really the day-to-day advertising capabilities of brands all over the world. And so a huge part of what our business is based upon is the rising growth of what's happening in the creator economy, which very recently Goldman Sachs said was going to be a $500 billion plus business by 2027. This is from probably a level of $5 or $10 billion only a short 3 or 4 years ago. So it's growing very, very fast, and it's becoming a very, very key part of people's day-to-day lives. The other piece of that is what I was talking about with India. Why India? India has the largest youth population on the planet Earth. It has the largest amount of social content consumption and creation of any country, with the possible exception of China, and it's soon to surpass China in many of those areas. It's got the largest mobile base of mobile phone users in the world, and that's continuing to grow. So India really forms a hotbed for everything that's happening in the creator economy and around social video, has more unicorns that have been coming out of this area of the creator economy and social video over the last 3 or 4 years than any country in the world. So we really think that we're at the right place at the right time in terms of what's happening there. Here's our revenue growth over the last couple of years. 2021 was the year when we finally sort of found our way and began to drive real revenue growth for the business. That basically doubled, grew over 100% in 2022. And as we're all probably aware, the capital markets, particularly among micro and small caps, has not been particularly friendly. So we slowed down the growth in terms of the investment that we were making. We're still doing that. We're investing primarily into our gaming business today, but we slowed that down in 2023 in terms of what was happening there, specifically as a result of what was happening in the capital markets and a move really to get to cash flow, to lower burn rate and to do less investment. With that said, while we haven't provided any formal guidance for 2024 at this point, we're expecting a growth that's much closer to what we experienced in 2021 to 2022 going forward in 2024. We also were very, very affected in our US influencer marketing business here, where I'm based in Los Angeles, by the writers and actors strike that happened. And so a lot of that revenue growth slowdown that we saw in 2023 is going to rebound in a big way in 2024. We're already seeing it in Q1 of this year. And as I mentioned, while we haven't provided formal guidance, you can see 50 to 100 growth on our horizon as we move into 2024 and beyond, and that's what we're expecting. What's driving that? Well, we've got a very, very experienced team of people across traditional media, across digital media, across social media, and it's a team that sits on top of a great group of people that are much younger than the guy who's talking right now in terms of the execution of all of that. Probably the single most important thing that's happened in the last 6 months for the company is the hire of the gentleman you see in the middle there, Raj Mishra. Raj is a Indian-based executive who was in charge, is what they call the country manager, which is basically their version of the CEO in India, of an app that some of you may be familiar with called Musical.ly. Musical.ly was an app that was exploding in growth all over the world, including India, and Raj was part of the team that was having and driving its meteoric growth in India. When a company called ByteDance purchased Musical.ly, you all might be familiar with that name. When ByteDance purchased Musical.ly, they changed the name of Musical.ly to TikTok. So TikTok that we now know today, which by the way is formally now banned in India and has been followed by some other sort of TikTok lookalike apps there, Raj became the head of TikTok India. He grew the business there from a couple of hundred employees at Musical.ly to several thousand employees in 18 months. And really experienced the full life cycle of explosive growth of TikTok that occurred in India and among a youth-oriented direct-to-consumer brand. Raj was originally became a board member of QYOU India in 2023. And in November of last year, he stepped up to become the group CEO across all of our business units. So that first slide that you saw of a lot of the different elements that make up our business, Raj is now in charge of all of that in India, and already starting to see the importance of his contribution to what we're doing as a company. Why again India? Some of you who follow what's happening in the public markets with some of the larger cap companies like Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon, Tesla, et cetera, may have seen a lot of the investment that they're doing into India over the last couple of years. We're big believers that the growth that was experienced and that we saw out of China in sort of the last couple of decades is what the world's going to see happening out of India in the coming years and decades. There's a lot of evidence of that from the large cap companies and the level of investment that they're making there. And if you were to do any research into what's happening in India and what's taking place there, some of these things happened after their Prime Minister Modi made a visit to the US about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. India is thriving in terms of what's happening, in terms of its power and the size of what's going on in the growth of the industry there. So again, we feel like we're in the right place at the right time in terms of our position in India. This is a really important part of our business going forward, which is data. Most of us in the business come out of a combination of some traditional media background, but also technology. And if you took a look at even a company like ByteDance and TikTok, if you took a look at a company like Netflix, which now, if you follow Netflix, you would know that Netflix has a higher market cap than any of the big studios that it was originally getting content from. So Netflix is much more valuable than Disney or Warner Discovery, et cetera. Why is that? Why is TikTok and ByteDance more valuable than those companies? It's because they're data driven. They don't operate off of hunches. They don't operate off of what they think might work. Everything that they do is data driven. Well, through all of those businesses that you saw on the opening slide, we actually pull in a huge amount of data from usage of what's happening across our TV channels, the connected TV channels, our influencer marketing campaigns, our app-based programs, and increasingly off Q Games Mela, our gaming platform. As that data is funneling in, we're increasingly using business analysis to drive what we're doing through having a massive audience that's showing us what they're doing, when they're doing it, why they want to see it, et cetera. That not only has value for our programming that we're putting into all those different platforms, but more so it has tremendous value in terms of the decision making and what we can offer brands that want to reach and the value of what we do for those brands. So as we move into 2024 and 2025, there's a big effort that's taking place inside all of the business units to take that data and create a data-driven decision-making tree as we go forward. The cornerstone to that is really what happens through the company that we acquired exactly 1 year ago today, Maxim Tech Digital Ventures. Maxim Tech was providing casual mobile gamings to very large platforms in India and outside of India, companies like Vodafone, Sony, et cetera, where Maxim Tech was creating the casual mobile games for their platforms and delivering those. We acquired Maxim Tech with the intent of using our audience that, as I mentioned, reaches about 125 million people weekly, and using that reach to be able to start to launch a direct-to-consumer business. That direct-to-consumer business is meant to combine the massive growth of mobile gaming that's happening in India. It will soon be the largest number of mobile game users of any country in the world, well over 500 million people that will be on their mobile phones gaming. To combine that with our reach that currently goes out to 125 million people and use the data analytics that we're bringing in to drive a successful direct-to-consumer business. This is something that in a very short time period, we've seen grow extremely rapidly in terms of downloads and user metrics. And this is going to drive a tremendous amount of the growth that you're going to see happen in our business in 2024 and beyond. In addition to that, we've launched what's called RMG, or real money gaming, and GCommerce, or gaming commerce. What is that? Real money gaming, you would know, is online gambling. This is the point where you're actually wagering real dollars, in the case of India, real rupees, to be able to play games and to be able to win real money. This style of gaming has had all sorts of regulatory issues, et cetera. We've been able to navigate those successfully. We actually just launched a version of our QYOU Media app that we'll be going live with shortly, with a government platform in India that we're on. And we're combining that with what's becoming increasingly known as GCommerce. GCommerce is the business of actually having transactions happen inside of gaming platforms. In our case, with the money and points that you can win through the free and real money gaming, you're actually able to go into a store that's in the image that you see here to be able to purchase products. It's really been extremely successful for us in the very, very early months of launching QYOU Media. And again, this is a big driver for why we see our revenue returning to 50 to 100% revenue growth as we move forward in 2024 and beyond. So what does this all boil down to? We think that through our presence in India, we've got a market position and market focus, which is extremely strong. We're seeing that both in terms of the audience size that we've developed, the revenue that we're delivering, and the advertiser relationships that we've created there. When you combine that with what's happening globally, but also in India specifically around social video content, influencers, et cetera, again, we think in a macro theme basis, we're in a very, very high growth area. That there's no doubt that this is going to experience explosive growth, no matter what we do. The other thing is we've built a huge number of strategic partnerships with advertisers and brands. As I mentioned earlier, there's pretty much not a Fortune 100 brand that we're not in business with on some level, advertising their products or services across the different platforms that we're delivering content on, to the 125 million plus people that we reach on a weekly basis. We've also built a very, very strong financial profile. We don't have one business that's reliant upon that growth. We have an influencer marketing agency business, both in India and the US. We have a channel business that crosses broadcast and connected and smart TVs. And now we have the gaming business that's being added to that. So we think we've got a portfolio of business units, all of which are delivering revenue growth and move. In some cases, they're already profitable. In other cases, they will become profitable in 2024. So we think we've got pillars of growth and foundation for the business. And finally, as I mentioned, with the addition of Raj and with the management team that we have in the company, we're very confident that we've got a very, very strong group of people in the business to drive us going forward. So that's it, Nicholas. I'm going to stop sharing the deck at this point and turn it over to you for questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that overview. We can move on to a couple questions. So let's stay with QYOU Media. The last update was that you guys reached 1 million downloads in only 6 weeks. So tell us a bit more about that and how you reached such a fast achievement.
Yeah, well, what's most exciting about that is, while we haven't put out more metrics yet about our growth, it's continuing to grow at that pace and even a bit faster. The other part of that that's exciting for us is that, like any business where you're acquiring customers, doesn't matter what business it is, you've got to spend capital to be able to originally acquire those customers, to retain those customers, and to keep monetizing those. At some point, the growth of that business reaches a plateau where you have enough customers that have stayed on the platform, that are using the platform regularly, and that's where you start to see huge profits start to happen as you add more on top of that. 2024 for us in our gaming business is all about that. It's creating that base. Our target is much higher than 1 million downloads and 50,000 daily average users. We have much bigger aspirations than that, particularly in a country like India, where you can achieve real scale. And so again, while we haven't announced to the market specific metrics that we're reaching, you can imagine that 10x, 20x, et cetera, in terms of where we are today, in terms of the users of our gaming platform on a daily basis and the number of downloads, are things that are going to happen as we move forward. So this is a major growth area for us, and something that we see in having incredible potential as we move ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll keep watching for some more press releases regarding the growth of QYOU Media. So, and another thing you didn't really mention too much in the presentation, but your exposure to connected TVs. So So a lot of people think connected TVs sales are going to double by 2025. So explain how that plays into the strategy for some of your channels.
Yeah, the connected TV area is really just starting in India. Over 90% of the televisions sold last year were smart TVs or connected TVs. I think anybody who lives in North America, in the US or Canada, is well aware of the fact that moving out of in Canada from a Rogers or a Shaw and going straight to just using your connected TV for everything you do is where the world is headed right now. It's also happening in the US and Latin America and Europe, et cetera. India is just catching up to all of that. We have 5 channels in the connected TV space right now with great partners, great content. We're just starting to see the growth of that business going forward. One of those channels is specifically for the gaming business. It's called QGameX. And so QGameX, as you can imagine, will be synergistically used to promote Q Games Mela and vice versa. So these are the kinds of connections that we're creating between influencers that are gaming influencers that talk about QGameX and Q Games Mela. And as we start to combine those, that's driving the growth that's happening both organically and in terms of the cross promotion that we can use, not only to grow it for ourselves, but to deliver advertising messages across those platforms.
Right. Okay. And then shifting over to the US influencer marketing business, that's kind of been your best performing segment in terms of growth, up over 50% year over year through the first 3 quarters. What are the driving factors of that segment, and what should we expect going forward?
Well, what you should expect going forward is that growth won't continue when we ultimately report Q4 because we got clip strike, the writer's strike, and the actor's strike in a pretty significant way. Of our influencer marketing business in the US, about I don't know, maybe 60% of that is driven by the major film studios. We're starting to do a lot more in the gaming space and in the toy space, et cetera. Nevertheless, what I can say without, again, giving away specific guidance is that we're on target in Q1 of this year to have the largest quarter we've ever had in the US influencer marketing business. So we're pretty bullish on the fact that we've rebounded, the strike is over, everybody's back in business, and believe me, we're seeing it in a big, big way. So we're very bullish on the growth of the US business at this point.
Amazing. Okay, yeah. So the next question I was going to ask you, what are some of the catalysts we should watch out for in 2024? That being one of them, the return of growth in the US business coming in Q1. What are some other things we should look for through this year?
Yeah, I think obviously what we just talked about with the US, but also in India, I think you mentioned it, the growth of Q Games Mela. We'll be announcing milestones that we hit along the way with that. We're seeing the revenue growth moving right alongside that right now. We're seeing more opportunities happen for us to have strategic partnerships for advertisements on the gaming side of what we're doing. So I think Q Games Mela, the growth of that, I think the rebound and return of the US business, and I think the connected TV business in India is finally going to start to deliver some real revenue for us in 2024 as well.
Perfect. So that's all the time we have. Curt, thank you for walking us through the deck and giving us some of the updates. We're looking forward to see the upcoming press releases as the gaming business kicks off, as well as the growth continues in the influencer marketing business. For our followers that haven't seen our research on QYOU, you can find it all on our website at atriumresearch.ca. And again, thanks for your time, Curt.
Yeah, thanks, Nicholas. Good seeing you.